Kerry Dixon, Luton, born and bred. And I guess in those days, when we thought Luton, we thought Eric Morecambe, didn't we?
Very much so. Luton, born and bred, it was a tribal mentality. You support your hometown club.
Which Eric Morecambe absolutely did.
As I did. Eric Morecambe did. They have a suite named after him, which, you know, very popular. Sadly, they're still in there. They're still at Kenilworth Road after many years of trying to get out of there, which is a bit of a problem for them. But as I say, they're still making inroads into getting the new stadium, and everyone who has a thought, if you like, for Luton Town, hope that they do manage to make the transition.
Yeah, and they're doing, you know, this year in the Championship, they're doing really well. They're lying fourth at the moment. Pretty impressive. They've
been doing very well for the last few years, actually. Playoffs this year. I mean, many people say that Luton are punching because of what they do and the stadium and all the rest of it. But they've always been quite formidable. They've produced quite a few good sides over the years. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say that they won't make the playoffs again.
That'd be interesting. And odd, really, Kerry, you know, you grew up Luton fan. You went on to have this very distinguished football career. But at the time, the Hatters, as they're known, when you were young, they didn't really want you, did they?
No, I got kicked out of there, kicked out of Tottenham as well. Told by David Pleat, Peter Shreves, various managers weren't going to make it. That was 16 and 18. But there was one or two that believed I would make it.
When you're that young, and you've set your heart on doing something, and you've obviously got a talent, and you're told you're not going to make it, how do you cope with that and deal with that as a young man?
You cope with it, and you do it. I went into a factory and became a tool maker.
Yep.
Done my apprenticeship for 4 or 5 years, Cardale Engineering, which is a local firm, and played football part-time. I was part-time at Spurs.
Yep.
And I really not hit the big time, but I played for Dunstable after Spurs saying I'm not going to make it.
Yep.
Played for Dunstable, which is a local side. Did well there, and Reading spotted me.
Yep.
The rest is history, as they say. 3 years at Reading and then 9 at Chelsea. And
yeah, and you know, when you went to Chelsea, you know, Ken Bates was running it. He's been on this programme, and Chelsea wasn't quite the glamour club, was it? At that moment in time, it was having a tough time.
Well, it was having a tough time, but I think Chelsea, from the 1970 Cup final, for members of the audience who could actually remember it, became a glamour club then with Peter Osgood, Alan Hudson, Kings Road, the swagger, the association with all of that. Yep. They became a big club, yep. And certainly the fan base was very big. They could always pull 40,000 if they're going well. Yeah. Sadly, at the time, they weren't going so well. But things changed in the summer of '83 when 6 of us joined, and
you made
a bit of an upward curve.
You did make a bit of a difference, Kerry, didn't you? I mean, no, come on. I mean, this is why, you know, this is how your name in football became what it was. I mean, your first 2 seasons, in 101 games, you scored 70 goals for Chelsea. Yeah. You must have felt on top of the world.
I can only say yes. It weren't bad going at the time. Yeah.
I mean, that was absolutely incredible. And, you know, you spent, say, 9 years there. You come out of it at the end. And at the time, you were the second highest ever goal scorer for the club.
Third. I couldn't... at the time, yes, you're right.
At the time... Yeah. I think a chap called Lampard has just snuck in front of
quite deservedly so as well.
What makes somebody a good goal scorer?
Well, if I say it now, it'll upset a lot of Chelsea fans, but anyone who watches the club would know that they're crying out for one. I mean, the art of tapping a ball in from 5 yards and being in the right place, it is an art. I mean, people say it wasn't a good goal. Goodness me, the amount of...
It's on the score sheet. It's on the score sheet. And is it about instinct? I mean, they say about Greaves, you know, Greaves was an incredible goal scorer. I know Kane's just overtaken his Tottenham record. But they also with Greaves, he just seemed to be in the right place at the right time.
Phenomenal. Probably the greatest goal scorer of all time for various clubs. Chelsea, one of them, I think it was 130 odd goals in about 180 games in 4 years, averaging about 40 goals a season. His record for England was great.
Incredible.
And, you know, for Tottenham, of course, Harry Kane's just overtaken his particular record. So,
but you had this gift too.
there's lots of people who've had a gift, and they are out-and-out goal scorers. They might not necessarily be good footballers, but they could score goals, and there is a bit of a difference.
What were you? Both?
More the goal scorer.
Love the modesty. Love the modesty. And then, well, you're still, I mean, you know, it's absolutely clear, isn't it, that, you know, the Bridge, Stamford Bridge, you're still an enormously popular figure there, aren't you?
Well, I still work there. I do matchday hospitality there.
Yeah.
I have been invited by Luton to do their matchday hospitality as well. But, you know, I'm nearly 30 years in at Chelsea now, and I grew up supporting Luton. But sadly, with the affinity to one club like that, 9 years playing and, you know, 20-odd years on the other side of things, they become my first club, and Luton sadly become a second club. But it's the way it is.
But you did actually, towards the end of your football career, you did finally appear for the Hatters. You played 75 games for them.
It was one of the great days for me to actually go out and play for Luton.
It must have been.
I think David Pleat, ironically, was the man who let me go at 16, was the same man that signed me at the age of 32. He said, I think you could do a job. I wish he'd have said it many, many years before, but he was a great manager for Luton. And, yeah, I mean, I love going out there and playing for Luton, hometown club. Ironically, we played Chelsea in a semi-final.
FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, at times in our lives, we're faced with conflicts and split loyalties. But for you, I was thinking about this earlier. For you, you know, Luton born and bred, Luton town supporter, rejected by Luton, accepted by Luton, playing for Luton, and then it's the FA Cup final against Chelsea.
Semi-final.
Semi-final.
Yeah.
What was going through your head?
Oh, it was a bit like one you couldn't lose, but you were going to lose either way. The days of a bit controversial, if you like, you know, people say, you know, kissing badge, you love this club, love your club, and all the rest of it, what you feel in a bond. I have a bond with Chelsea, but Luton, you've already said, born and bred, so I went out there, and believe me, the days of you wouldn't celebrate against your club, it might gall with one or two, but I would desperately try to score, and I would have celebrated. It wouldn't have been in people's faces and taking the mickey as such, but you would have scoring a goal is what it was all about.
Yeah.
And to jump up, you can't help yourself. You know, so I can't sit here and say I wouldn't have celebrated.
No.
The natural enthusiasm for scoring a goal, I would have scored.
Yeah.
Listen, it never come up.
It didn't happen.
We got beat 2-0, Chelsea won it. And, it was the end of it was a wonderful cup run for Luton.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But on the day, Chelsea fans made it a special day for me, probably the most humbling football day of my life, by singing my name after they're going to the cup final. At the age of 34, I was never going to a cup final, or the chances were slim.
Yeah, but they still loved you. Well, they clearly did. They clearly did. He's welling up now, but they clearly did.
Chelsea is where it is for me.
Yeah, I get it.
Without overstating the point.
No, I get it. And the England career, Kerry, you 8 caps, 4 goals, good ratio and all that. But you were a bit unlucky. There were a lot of other good strikers around at the time, weren't there?
Yes, there were. I mean, I'm not going to name them, but there was plenty. Mick Harford and Paul Walsh and Brian Steele at Luton all got England caps.
Yeah.
You know, for various stages.
A chap called Lineker was quite useful.
Lineker.
Well, he was good at football, not much good at political opinions, but good at football.
That's more your department, not mine.
Yeah, but still great to play for your country.
It was wonderful. You know, when I stood there in the Aztec Stadium in '85, full debut, it was going to be. I used to collect the Panini stickers for the younger members of the audience. Won't remember what's he talking about, but stickers of players that you've put in books, and you had the whole lot, and it would have been Kerry, Dixon, Chelsea, and England here on in, and I was so proud. I could never quite understand. Players want to retire from international duty for whatever reason. They say to prolong their careers. It was an honour, you know, from a kid growing up playing football in the street to represent your country.
Absolutely.
It was an honour, and 8 caps, I'm very proud of them.
Absolutely, and so you should be. So you should be. Kerry, recent years you've had some tough times.
Yeah.
You've had some very tough times. You've had some difficulties with drugs. You've had some difficulties with the police, a little bit of prison, etc. You've had some very tough times. You say that the root cause of your problem is an addiction that maybe we don't talk about enough. We talk about people with drink problems, drug problems, but your big problem is gambling, yeah?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have said gambling. Gambling is the area where you end up, because I believe all roads lead to nothing. You know, if you're a gambler, there aren't many. There's the odd one who'll come out of the woodwork and say he's made it work for him. But by and large, people who gamble to the levels that I was gambling, you can't win. And hence, you know, most of the money that I earned during my football career and other businesses as such went down the drain. So, yeah. And if anyone ever says, you know, what's tougher, it's certainly tougher at the bottom. Given the choice, tough at the top is certainly tougher at the bottom. And you could argue I've been to both.
Yeah, I guess you could. How easy is it to kick the gambling habit?
I don't think it's easy to kick any habit. I think any addiction, any habit, you have to work at it. You've got to have a desire to do it. You've got to want to do it. And you've got to have people around you, the support, to be able to do it. Also, I think people who can't kick the habit as such have got to be able to control it. That's possibly the key for me, controlling. Circumstances dictate at the moment, because obviously £1,000 here, £1,000 there, 500 here and so on, no longer can happen. But nevertheless, I'm not going to say never, because if I wanted a football accumulator for £1 on a Saturday afternoon, I'd quite enjoy putting 5 or 6 teams together in the hope that I might get a 70 quid or something like that. Great. So it's still there. So whether you kick it or not, whether you can. Other addictions are for other people, and you've all got to work out your own thing.
Yeah.
I go around sometimes and I've done talks to people about addictions and help and stuff like that. But every case is different. And there isn't a blanket way that you could say to anyone, this is what you've got to do.
Kerry, can I say to you, from me, on behalf of the audience, well done for all the things you've done and your bravery and honesty in talking about those tough parts of your life. And thank you for joining me on Talking Pub.
No problem, thank you.